Now after we take the nut off the axle, this is 12 millimeter right here. On the other side it's 17 millimeter. Or actually you should do this first. This is your brake cable, and it goes right through here and then up to the clamshell brakes, which pulls open. As it pulls open, the clamshells open, and as they open against the edges here, they stop the wheel. Now you've got a little pin here that goes here. You take that off, you take the end dealie off right there, and pull this out. Now your speedometer cable is even easier to come out. These are the two things you have to take off before you take off your wheel. I have to be real careful because this hasn't been off. What I do is I have to unloosen this, but I have to be real careful not to strip it because it's been on there for 25 years. So what I will do is pull that off, and then this pulls right out. Then I can pull the axle and the whole wheel assembly will come off after you've taken your wood or whatever and propped the bike up. The nice thing about these little bikes is that they're maybe 130 pounds soaking wet, and you can have a real fun time working on them. And they even weigh less than a golf cart. So we've got a 17 millimeter nut right there, 12 millimeter on the other side. Then I take my little hammer here and I will slowly pound that out. After I get that pounded out, I will this spacer will fall out right here, and this spacer fits right there. And then I'll check the seals in here, I'll check the insides, and we'll go from there on the front wheel. But this will give you, any of you that are working on gyros, how to adjust the brakes, replace the brakes, how to look for problems that do come up with little bikes. And this is just a how-to video on every aspect of it. And I'm fortunate enough to where I have time to do this, thanks to well, I just have time to do this. So I'm going to do this, and I do this every winter, get everything ready for next season. Now I have the front wheel off. This is the first time since it was brand new that it's ever been off, and I can tell that. What we have in here is we have a bearing on this right side. We have a spacer in between and another bearing on the other side. Now remember what I told you about looking for what the bike is trying to tell you. Now if we look in here, we see along the brake drum that it is in good shape. There's no problem, but that there should be asbestos dust in here. Which what causes the asbestos dust is that the pads are made of asbestos, which is flame-proof or something, fireproof, and as it heats up, it turns into dust and flakes off the pads and gets in here. What I see in here is oil in here, and that's no good. Oil and brake pads do not mix in a bike, a car, anything. If you have oil on your brake pads, what will happen is the minute you touch your brakes, your wheels will immediately lock up in the older cars. Now, like I said, there was a wobble here, and so I'm looking for any sign of bad bearing or anything like that. And here's the other side of the wheel. And what you can see here is that this outer seal right here kind of looks okay, but you can tell it's been leaking because, well, let's face it, it's 26 damn years old. It doesn't matter if it's brand new looking or anything, it's still that old, and things get old. The only problem with factory OEM parts for these is sometimes you don't know whether you're going to get a brand new part, yes, in a brand new package that may be built in 1985. Now, this is one thing I wanted to look for. And as this holds your two wires right here, your two your speedometer wire cable and your brake cable. But as I look in here, what I see is, if you will look at that interior right above the white speedometer gear is a round seal, and that is supposed to hold the oil inside for the axle. And it's not supposed to get out and get on to these brake pads, which it has done. And you can see where it's leaked out right here, and it's leaked down to the cable, which it's not supposed to do. But that's just because of old age. Now the one thing I was looking for, this is the axle, which is no longer available. What I was looking for is damage on this axle. Any kind of wear that would show that I have a bad bearing. Because if the axle is in good shape, then the bearings could be out. Or here's your spacer. Spacers usually don't go out. They're in really pretty good shape. I don't see any wear on that. Now if the bearings are in good shape and my wheel is still wobbling back and forth as I go down the road a little bit, then I have a bent wheel. But how it got bent with no exterior damage, I don't know. But I'm gonna, and then we want to look at the brake pads, and you can see that on these little bikes that has plenty of pad on it. But these do have a brake adjustment. If you look right here, right down there, you'll see a little tiny pyramid or triangle. Now if you look, and like I said, these open as a clamshell. If you look very carefully, right underneath this arm is a little tiny piece of steel with a corresponding triangle on it. Now as you're tightening up your brakes to get them tighter as they wear down, when this triangle on the arm meets the triangle right down here, that means your brakes have worn enough to where you have to replace them. But we'll get into that. It's very simple, but there's not too many people that make videos on them the way I do. I like to make them. I like to make these for future generations, or I don't know how long YouTube's going to go. I just turned 50. I don't know how long I'm going to go, but I hope that people out there that are using these mopeds, hell, I wish I had some of these videos that I could look at and say, oh, that makes sense, rather than blow something up and it cost me $300. And you can see right here, that's kind of neat. This is 1985 motor driven cycle. It's a TB something or other, and manufactured in Honda, in Japan, and it weighs 110 pounds. It's a TG right there, TG50. So, and you can see that plate's all in really good shape. So this bike hasn't had much wear at all on it. Now I'm going to take this. I will take this apart. This front thing all the way apart, and clean everything up and lay it out, and we'll go through it. Now these videos may be kind of boring and step by step, but this is just like the book does it, except I do it with a camera. And then I'll figure out what parts I need to order, and I'll order them from Bike Bandit. This front clamshell brake is just like the one on my 93. It's just like the one on a 2001 SA50. What's that say? It says caution. Oil is recommended, cold tire pressure, and at the very bottom it says warning, no fat chicks.